Lesson 16 in the workshop.
Hello. Today we're going to review and, but and so, and then we're going to learn some transition words. Let's start with some new vocabulary. A carpenter. A carpenter. A carpenter is someone whose job is making and repairing wooden objects such as desks, beds and chairs. An electrician. An electrician. An electrician is someone whose job is to deal with or repair electrical equipment. A plumber. A plumber. A plumber is someone whose job is to install or fix sinks, baths and water pipes. A faucet. A faucet. A faucet is the thing you turn on or turn off to control the flow of water from a pipe. A leaky faucet. A leaky faucet. Well, a leaky faucet is a faucet which has a fault or a problem so that water passes through it. A drain. A drain. A drain is a pipe that carries water or waste liquids away. An outlet. An outlet. An outlet is a power point for electricity in the house. A board. A board. A board is a flat, wide piece of wood. So over here, a sawhorse. A sawhorse. A sawhorse is a wooden frame used to support boards. A hammer. A hammer. A hammer is a tool with a heavy metal part on a long handle, and it's used for hitting nails into wood. And what's a nail? A nail is a thin, pointed piece of metal which you force into a piece of wood with a hammer to fasten the wood to something else. A saw. A saw. A saw is a tool with a row of V-shaped pieces used for cutting wood. A screwdriver. A screwdriver. A screwdriver is a tool with a narrow blade at one end that you use for turning screws. And what's a screw? A screw is a thin, pointed piece of metal that you push and turn to fasten pieces of wood or metal together. Pliers. Pliers. Well, this is a tool, a small tool, made of two crossed pieces of metal used to hold small things or to bend and cut wire. And finally, a tape measure. A tape measure. A tape measure is a long, narrow band of cloth or steel marked with inches and feet or centimeters. It's used for measuring something. Well, let's repeat these again. A carpenter, an electrician, a plumber. A faucet, a leaky faucet. A drain, an outlet, and a board. Over here we have a sawhorse, a hammer and a nail, a saw, a screwdriver and a screw, pliers, and finally a tape measure. And let's begin our lesson with a review of and. Have a look at these sentences, please. The electrician had a pair of pliers and a screwdriver in his tool belt. The sink had a leaky faucet, a leaky drain, and a leaky basin. The screws and nails were in the toolbox. The plumber and the carpenter were working at the Grant residence. Well, and is used to connect two or more nouns. In sentences 1 and 2, and is used to connect two objects. And in sentences 3 and 4, and is used to connect two subjects. And is also used to connect two clauses, as in these examples here. The electrician was working late and he was hungry. It was raining hard and the carpenters weren't able to work. Well, in these two sentences, and is used to connect two independent clauses. Both clauses have a subject and a verb and could be sentences on their own. Now, usually a comma precedes the conjunction. Let's practice. Rosa, would you like to be a plumber?
No, plumbers are always dirty and smelly.
Very good. And Monica, would you like to be an electrician?
It might be fun. I can do some dangerous things and I can make good money.
Okay, very good. And Lewis, would you like to be a carpenter?
My grandfather was a carpenter. He was always happy and he always whistled while he worked. I think I'd like to be a carpenter.
Very good. Now it's time for you to look and listen.
Look and listen.
The nails were old and rusty. The sawhorses and the saws were stolen from the worksite. Caleb loves to use a saw and he loves to work with wood. The plumber unclogged the drain and he didn't charge Mrs. Frank anything.
Read and repeat. But.
Now let's do a quick review of but. Have a look. The nails were old, but the screws were new. The weather was hot, but the plumber was cool in the air-conditioned house. Greg is a hard-working carpenter, but Dave is a lazy one. This hammer is broken, but that one is okay. But gives the idea that this is the opposite of that. A comma usually comes before but, and often the verb phrase following but can be shortened, as in these examples. The carpenter likes to work on Sundays, but the plumber doesn't like to work on Sundays. We can shorten the second phrase into the carpenter likes to work on Sundays, but the plumber doesn't. Now we can use but with still and anyway, as in these examples. It was early, but the electrician worked anyway. I was tired, but I still carried the sawhorses. Let's practice. Let's use but in our sentences. Why is being a plumber a good job, Lewis?
They make a lot of money, but they're always working.
That's true. And why is an electrician's job good, Monica?
They had to work in dangerous places sometimes, but it's a very interesting job.
Good. And what about carpenters, Rosa?
Their work is very slow, but it's very rewarding when they finish.
You're right. Thank you. And now you can look, but you can also listen.
Look and listen.
The carpenter was happy, but he was also very tired. Mary is an honest plumber, but her secretary is dishonest. An electric screwdriver is costly, but time-saving. The sawhorses were old, but they were needed.
Read and repeat. So.
Let's quickly review so. Take a look at these sentences. The electrician was ill, so he went home. The screws were rusty, so Ed threw them away. So can be used to connect two independent clauses. And so means therefore or as a result. Let's practice. Look at the picture. Lewis, why is the carpenter happy?
He has finished making the bell, so he's happy.
Okay, great. Monica, why is the plumber frustrated?
He keeps dripping his pliers, so he's frustrated.
You're right. And Rosa, why is the electrician angry?
He got a shock, so he is angry.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. Now you need to practice so you can look and listen.
Look and listen.
The sawhorses were old, so we left them at the building site. The plumber was working on the sink, so the children were sent to the babysitter. The carpenter cut his finger, so he had to go to the hospital. We were out of nails, so we sent Jeff to the hardware store.
Read and repeat. Transition words.
And now we're going to learn some new connectors or transition words. Let's start with connectors of contrast, concession. Connectors of contrast, concession. Here are some examples. Although Paul is a good carpenter, he is always losing his tools. Paul is a good carpenter, however, he is always losing his tools. Paul is a good carpenter, however, he's always losing his tools. Paul is a good carpenter, nevertheless, he is always losing his tools. Although, however, and nevertheless are connectors of contrast. They have the same meaning as but, which we have already studied and reviewed. Although can begin a sentence or come in the middle. When it begins a sentence, a comma is used after the clause. However and nevertheless usually begin a second sentence. They are followed by a comma. Both clauses can be in the same sentence, as in sentence number 3 of the examples. When this happens, the first clause ends with a semicolon. So we have Paul is a good carpenter, semicolon, however, comma, etc. When we have however in the same sentence, it must be a semicolon, however, comma. Okay, let's practice. Lewis, do you think Monica would be a good electrician?
No, I don't think so. She's a good person, however, I think she's afraid of heights. Electricians must go to some very high places.
Very good. Rosa, do you think Lewis would make a good carpenter?
I'm not sure. Although he is good with his hands, I don't know if he has the patience to be a carpenter.
Thanks a lot.
Good. And Monica, do you think Rosa would make a good plumber?
I don't believe so. She's a great girl. However, I don't think she likes to be dirty.
You're probably right. Okay, that was good. Thank you very much, everyone. However, now it's time to look and listen.
Look and listen.
Although the desk was finished, the carpenter wasn't satisfied. The electrical problem was on the 5th floor. However, the usually nervous electrician wasn't worried. The nails were very rusty. However, the carpenters still used them. Although the saw had a used blade, Larry still brought it to the job.
Read and repeat.
And now let's look at connectors of reason and result. Connectors of reason, result. Here are some example sentences for you. Many carpenters have become more efficient since electric screwdrivers were invented. Many electrical tools were invented, therefore carpenters became more efficient. Many electrical tools were invented. As a result, carpenters became more efficient. Since is a connector of reason, and it has the same meaning as because. Since, same meaning as because. It may be placed at the beginning or the end of a sentence, and when it begins a sentence, a comma is usually placed after the first clause. Now, therefore, and as a result, therefore, and as a result, are connectors of result. Connectors of result. Connectors of result. Result means that if one thing happens, another thing will follow, another thing will happen after that. They normally begin a sentence and are followed by a comma. So for example, when it rains, or if it rains, you'll get wet. That's a result. Rain and then wet. Wet is the result of rain. Let's practice. Rosa, do you think you would be a good plumber?
Since I'm not good with tools, I don't think so. I'm always dropping things.
I know. And Lewis, do you think you would be a good carpenter?
I'm not impatient and I'm good with my hands. Therefore, I would be a wonderful carpenter.
I'm not sure about that. Monica, do you think you'd make a good electrician?
I hate getting shocks, and as a result, I think I will be a very timid electrician.
Great. Thank you all. And now, since you are still learning, it's a good idea to look and listen.
Look and listen.
Since the electrician forgot his tools, he went home. I hate getting slivers. Therefore, I wouldn't make a good carpenter. There was a big fire at the workplace. As a result, the plumbers couldn't connect the pipes. The plumber broke his right hand. As a result, he could only work with his left hand.
Read and repeat.
And now let's look at a connector of purpose. Connector of purpose. Here are some examples for you. Many plumbers wear a tool belt so that they don't have to go to their truck all the time. We brought 2 hammers so that we could both work at the same time. A so that, which we quickly studied in lesson 14, is a connector used with the purpose of an action. It's like it answers the question, why did or why do you do something? In the second sentence, why did we bring 2 hammers? We brought 2 hammers so that we could both work at the same time. It's usually placed in the middle of a sentence, and often it's used with can or could. So that, and, can or could. Often with can or could. No comma is necessary with this connector. And let's practice this one. Okay, Monica, did you used to watch Carpenters when you were young?
Yes, I did. I watched them so that I could help my father when he was working around the house.
Very good. And Lewis, do you watch Plumbers now?
Not usually. My brother likes to watch them so that he can fix the leaky faucets in our house.
Great. And Rosa, do you like to watch Electricians?
No, my father likes to watch them so that he can make sure they are doing a good job. They are building a new kitchen at my parents' house.
Very good. Now you can look and listen so that you can practice.
Look and listen.
The plumbers left early so that they could beat the traffic to the work site. Manny bought a new saw so that he could cut the boards easily. The screws were put in the truck so that they could be brought to the work site. The electrician left late so that he could meet his boss for a drink.
Read and repeat.
And now let's look at connectors of sequence. Connectors of sequence. Please have a look. John bought some nails. Afterwards, he rented a circular saw. Tim finished the desk. After that, he started to work on the sofa. Sue installed the sink. Then she connected the pipes. Fred rented a ladder. Next, he bought some nails and screws. Afterwards, after, then, and next are all connectors of sequence. We use them when one event follows another. They usually begin the second sentence and a comma is used after the connector. Let's practice. This should be easy for you because we've already studied adverbs of sequence. Rosa, do you help your father when he does carpentry work?
A little bit. I watch him until he is finished. After that, I help him clean up.
Great. Monica, do you help your father when he does electrical work?
He doesn't do it. The electricians do it. And he watches them. Then he gets angry when they do a bad job.
Oh, I'm sorry. Lewis, do you watch your father do plumbing work?
I watch him. Afterwards, I tell him what he did wrong.
You're always a funny man, Lewis. Okay, thank you. First we reviewed, and then we studied connectors, and now we're going to look and listen.
Look and listen.
The man went to the building site. Then he spoke with the carpenters. Bob built a new chair. Afterwards, he left his mess for his wife to clean. Kevin bought some new boards. Next, he bought some nails. The electrician finished installing the outlet. Then he plugged the lamp in.
Read and repeat.
Right, well now let's look at connectors for events happening at the same time. Connectors, events happening at the same time. Here are some examples for you. The carpenter was relaxing, meanwhile the plumber was working hard. Betty was cleaning the house. At the same time, her husband was fixing the clogged drain. Meanwhile, and at the same time, are connectors which have the same meaning as while. Two things happening together at the same time. They are followed by a comma. Meanwhile, comma, at the same time, comma. Let's practice. Lewis, what does a carpenter's helper do while a carpenter is working?
The carpenter may be building a chair, meanwhile the carpenter's helper may be handing him nails.
Very good, Lewis. Rosa, what does an electrician's helper do while the electrician is working?
The electrician might be putting in an outlet. At the same time, the helper might be cutting the wire.
Excellent. Monica, what does a plumber's helper do while the plumber is working?
The plumber may be working in the shower. Meanwhile, his helper might be cleaning pipes.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone. And now you will be looking. Meanwhile, you will be listening.
Look and listen.
Rita was painting the boards. Meanwhile, her husband was sharpening his saw. One carpenter was working on the roof. At the same time, the other one was working in the basement. Hank was using a hammer. Meanwhile, Joe was using a screwdriver. Lyle was cutting boards. At the same time, the electrician was cutting wire.
Read and repeat.
And now let's look at one more type of transition words. Transition words. These are transition words which give examples. Examples. Here are some sentences for you to look at. Joe is a good carpenter. For example, his furniture always lasts a long time. Tom is a bad carpenter. For example, his furniture always falls apart. For example, and for instance, are used to support the first sentence. They give us more information about the first sentence. In the first example sentence here, we said Joe is a good carpenter. The second sentence tells us how he is a good carpenter. His furniture always lasts a long time. And they are used to begin the second sentence and they always are followed with a comma. Let's practice these now. Do you know any rich carpenters, Monica?
I have a friend called Olaf. He's a very rich carpenter. And, for example, he has 11 men working for him.
Wow, he must be rich.
Yeah.
And Lewis, do you know any rich electricians?
The only electrician I know is poor. For instance, he rides a bicycle to work.
He must be poor, or maybe he just likes keeping fit. And Rosa, do you know any rich plumbers?
Yeah, my father's friend Pedro is a rich plumber. For example, he buys new tools every year.
Good for him. I'm glad that someone is rich. Thank you very much, everyone. Now it's time to practice. For example, you can look and listen.
Look and listen.
Lee is an angry electrician. For example, he's always throwing his tools. Mary is an apprentice electrician. For instance, she can't install an outlet. We can't use these nails. For example, they are all rusty. We won't repair this house. For example, it's a fire trap.
Read and repeat. Review.
And now it's time for some exercises. Let's do a quick exercise using and. I want each of you to give me a sentence about plumbers using and. Okay? Rosa, what's your sentence?
Plumbers are intelligent and they make a lot of money.
Great. Lewis?
Plumbers always use pliers and screwdrivers.
Good. And Monica?
Plumbers are usually very dirty and their hands are never clean.
Good job. And now let's do an exercise using but. Can you please finish these sentences with an appropriate clause using but? Monica, you can go first.
Okay.
The carpenter was angry.
The carpenter was angry, but his helper didn't know it.
Good. The carpenter was angry, but his helper didn't know it. Who's next? Rosa, can you please do this one? The plumber remembered his toolbox.
The plumber remembered his toolbox, but he had forgotten to put his tools in it.
Very good. The plumber remembered his toolbox, but he had forgotten to put his tools in it. And Lewis, this one's for you. Jenny was very happy when her desk was finished.
Jenny was very happy when her desk was finished, but she wasn't happy when she saw the bill.
I'm sure she wasn't.
I'm sure too.
Jenny was very happy when her desk was finished, but she wasn't happy when she saw the bill. Thank you all. And now let's do one more exercise covering our review. Please fill in the blanks with and, but, or so. Rosa, go first, please. The electricians were excited, something eager to start the new job.
That's easy. The electricians were excited and eager to start the new job.
Good. The electricians were excited and eager to start the new job. Okay, Lewis, one for you. Jacob was anxious to finish the carpentry job, something. He began to work quickly.
Jacob was anxious to finish the carpentry job, so he began to work quickly.
Super. Jacob was anxious to finish the carpentry job, so he began to work quickly. And Monica, the last one's for you. The carpenters wanted to work on the roof, so, or and, or but, it was snowing.
The carpenters wanted to work on the roof, but it was snowing.
Good job. The carpenters wanted to work on the roof, but it was snowing. Good job. Thank you very much, everyone. And now let's do an exercise using connectors of contrast. I want each of you to give me a sentence about a very angry plumber using a a connector of contrast. Okay, Lewis, you can go first.
Although the plumber was furious, he still continued to work.
Okay, good sentence. And Rosa.
The plumber wasn't very happy. However, no one realized this.
Fine, good. And Monica.
The plumber was angry. Nevertheless, he continued to work.
Good, great job. And now let's do an exercise using connectors of purpose. This time, I want you to fill in the blanks in the sentences with an appropriate connector. We're going to use therefore, as a result, or so that. Monica, you can go first. The electricians left early. They could go to their boss's birthday party.
The electricians left early so that they could go to their boss's birthday party.
Good. The electricians left early so that they could go to their boss's birthday party. Lewis, can you do this one? Michael forgot his tools. His boss was angry.
Michael forgot his tools. As a result, his boss was angry.
Excellent. Michael forgot his tools. As a result, his boss was angry. And Rosa, the last one's for you. Ellen had broken her saw. She was absent from work.
Ellen had broken her saw, therefore she was absent from work.
Good, great job. Ellen had broken her saw, therefore she was absent from work. Excellent job, everyone. Thank you all. Let's do one more exercise. I want each of you to give me 2 sentences about how a worker starts his or her day. Lewis, you're an electrician. Monica, you can be a plumber. And Rosa, you can be a carpenter. Let's use connectors of sequence. Lewis, can you go first?
I get my tools out of my truck. Afterwards, I shout at my helpers.
I'm sure you would. And Monica?
I go to the hardware store for wire. Next, I sharpen my cut wires.
Good. And Rosa?
I buy some new boards, then I put them in my truck to take them to the building site.
Good job, everybody. As always, wonderful work. And now, for you, it's time to listen and write.
Listen and write.
Listen and write these sentences. Number 1. Charles bought nails and screws. Number 2. The carpenters were tired and they wanted to go home. Number 3. The nails were rusty, but they were used anyway. Number 4. The plumber's back ached, so he took a break. Number 5. Although the plumbers were hungry, they didn't stop for lunch. Number 6. We had to finish the ceiling by 12 o'clock. However, we still took a break. Number 7. The electrician ran out of wire. As a result, he went home for the night. Number 8. We hired a new plumber so that the work could be done properly. Number 9. The carpenter finished the closet. Afterwards, he started on the floor. Number 10. The girls were having tea in the garden. Meanwhile, the carpenter was watching them. Now, check your work. Number 1. Charles bought nails and screws. Number 2. The carpenters were tired and they wanted to go home. Number 3. The nails were rusty, but they were used anyway. Number 4. The plumber's back ached, so he took a break. Number 5. Although the plumbers were hungry, they didn't stop for lunch. Number 6. We had to finish the ceiling by 12 o'clock. However, we still took a break. Number 7. The electrician ran out of wire. As a result, he went home for the night. Number 8. We hired a new plumber so that the work could be done properly. Number 9, the carpenter finished the closet. Afterwards, he started on the floor. And number 10, the girls were having tea in the garden. Meanwhile, the carpenter was watching them. Now read the story and answer the questions.
Read and answer.
The Jones family is having a new house built near the lake. They wanted it to be closer to the city, but they couldn't find a good place. They found a nice spot on the lake near a marina, so they're having it built there. The carpenters will come first. They will build the house. After that, they will build the garage. At the same time, the electricians will be installing switches and outlets. The carpenters will work quickly and efficiently so that the plumbers won't find their job difficult. Mr. Jones just got his inheritance from his grandfather. As a result, they have plenty of money for their new home. Nevertheless, they don't want to spend it all. For example, they may want to buy a boat in the future. However, the most important thing is that the carpenters, plumbers, and electricians all do an excellent job. Now, answer the questions. Number 1. Where is the new house being built? Number 2. Why aren't they building close to the city? Number 3. Where will the house be on the lake? Number 4. Which workers will come first? Number 5. What will the carpenters build first? Number 6. What will the electricians be doing while the carpenters are building the garage? Number 7. Why won't the plumbers find their job difficult? Number 8. Who did Mr. Jones get an inheritance from? Number 9. What might they buy in the future? Number 10. What is the most important thing for the Jones family? Now, check your work. Number 1. Where is the new house being built? It is being built near the lake. Why aren't they building close to the city? They couldn't find a good place. Number 3. Where will the house be on the lake? It will be near a marina. Number 4. Which workers will come first? The carpenters will come first. Number 5. What will the carpenters build first? They will build the house first. Number 6. What will the electricians be doing while the carpenters are building the garage? They will be installing outlets and switches. Number 7. Why won't the plumbers find their job difficult? They won't find their job difficult because the carpenters will work quickly and efficiently. Number 8. Who did Mr. Jones get an inheritance from? He got an inheritance from his grandfather. Number 9. What might they buy in the future? They might buy a boat. And number 10. What is the most important thing for the Jones family? The carpenters, plumbers, and electricians must all do an excellent job. See you next time, everybody. Bye-bye.
Practicing English.
Monica, did you do anything interesting over the weekend?
Dave, it's funny that you ask. My weekend was just awful. It was ruined by furniture.
Monica, what do you mean ruined by furniture? How could furniture ruin your weekend?
Well, you know how I love books and reading.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I think you have every book ever published.
I know. I do have a lot of books, and sometimes it seems like my life is taken over by them. And I have stacks of them all over the place.
Yes, I know.
So Saturday morning, I saw this ad in the paper for bookcases, so I went to the store and picked up 3 of them.
Good for you. Time to get organized.
Well, of course, in the store, the bookcases are all put together and look great.
Yes?
So after I told the man that I would like 3, he disappears in the back and comes back with 3 incredibly small boxes.
They weren't assembled.
Correct. They came in these little boxes. I thought there was no way that these tall bookcases could fit in these little boxes. But sure enough, the man was right. They were in the boxes.
So you bought them?
Yes, I did. He convinced me that I could put them together myself with a few simple tools.
Uh-oh. He clearly didn't know that you're genetically unable to use tools.
No, he had no idea I'm a tool klutz. I tried to tell him I didn't know a wrench from a hammer, but he convinced me it was easy.
Okay, then what happened?
Well, the boxes were a lot heavier than I expected, so by the time I lugged the boxes up to my apartment, I was exhausted and only had enough energy to open them and see what was inside.
Pretty bad, huh?
Real bad. There was a million little bits and pieces and bolts. I just wanted to cry.
Oh no, that's a shame.
Well, as I sat there with tears streaming down my face, I got out the tools I thought I would need. A drill, my one hammer, some wood glue, and some nails.
Why didn't you call me?
Well, I was still dreading the job, but I thought I could do it. Not that it would be easy.
Go on.
Well, by the time I got the packages up to my place and rested, Sunday morning around 10 a.m. I started. It was misery at my place for hours.
What happened?
Get this, the instructions were in at least 37 languages, but of course the English wasn't so good and I couldn't understand it. And the pictures they used were so simple that they didn't look anything like the boxes. Then, the drill I was using was super powerful, so I ended up drilling the rug. Well, really through the rug and into the floor.
Oh no!
Wait, it gets better.
You're kidding!
After 2 hours, I finally get one of them together, and despite drilling the floor, hitting my thumb with a hammer, and spilling the glue on the floor, it didn't look half bad.
Good for you!
So then I moved the bookcase into place. Then I thought I would see what it looked like with some books on it. So I gathered some up and began arranging them. Because I had assembled it, I was feeling really good for myself.
And?
Then I went to the kitchen to make some coffee and heard the loudest noise. My bookcase had completely fallen apart. The books and everything on it were all over the floor, exactly where they started.
What did you do then?
Well, my neighbors thought it was an earthquake and ran upstairs to see if I was okay. When I told them what happened, they sent their son over. He's a carpenter. While he was putting the bookcase together, I took a shower and went shopping.
Don't tell me.
Yes, to the bookstore.